5 minutes. 5 minutes, and it'll be this beautiful amber brown color. You'll see. You'll see.
And then it's gonna go where?
It's gonna go right smack in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Beautiful sautéed vegetables right there.
This is the intermediary stage. See, it's gotten a little bit darker than it was before. It's kind of like a nutmeggy caramel color. It's coming on like butterscotch or something.
Yeah, butterscotch, definitely. It's at this point, it's very, very nutty.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna.
It's very close to the amber stage. I wish we had smell-o-vision.
You can smell it. It does smell amazing.
But as you can see, the color's already started to change.
Yeah, even since I just started recording right now.
So it's starting to get closer to that color that we want for Espagnole.
It's beautiful.
And again, you have to be very careful. Roux is really, really easy to burn.
Yeah.
You have to watch it. And using your nose, the minute you put in your thought, does that smell burnt? It's probably burnt. So.
We are approaching our final destination.
Almost that rich color that we want for Espagnole. And of course, you can always go lighter or darker. It's up to you on flavor-wise. The darker you go, the more intense the flavor. The lighter you go, the more buttery, nutty flavor you get. It's a much lighter feeling. But you definitely want, for Espagnole, you want that dark color. This is the color right here. Right here, this is the one that you want. So right now, I'm just going to pull it off the heat. I want it to stop cooking. And I'm just going to pull it off to the side.
Let it cool down a little bit.
Just a tad.
And now we will continue to the next part of our sauce. So, remember those vegetables you had sauteing over there a little while ago? Well, you're going to bring them back onto the forefront. They're back on stage.
Back on stage.
So.
We're waiting for it to heat up. Because again, gas stoves, it's going to be a minute.
Yeah. One really important factor when making Espagnole is that when this final stage happens and all your ingredients come together, everything must be warm or you'll end up with a broken sauce. For those of you at home, broken sauces equal yucky sauces. Equal like bits of clay in mush sauces.
Okay, so now as you can see, it's started to heat up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of create like a well. You don't have to do this. This is sort of my preference. I like doing the tomato paste this way.
Tomato paste, very important. Smoky Spanish ingredients, what makes it Espagnole. Yeah.
So I like to cook out a little bit of that intense flavor from the tomato paste because it's been a condensed flavor. Especially if you got it from canned and it's not fresh. Because again, you can make fresh tomato paste. It's literally just roasting tomatoes in the oven. We can do a segment on that.
Yeah, we will.
But just want to cook out that flavor just a little bit. And now we'll just add it onto this. And again, I wish we had smell-o-vision because it smells phenomenal. The vegetables all together like that, and just adding that tomato paste really opened it up. Now we're going to add in the beautiful color.
That is beautiful.
Now this is a little bit darker than most people go for Espagnole, but I really, really like that deep, dark, smoky flavor.
Oh, yes. That already looks like a party.
Alright.
Oh, smell-o-vision.
That acidity has taken off all the fond that's down there. You want that. Don't think that it's burnt or something. This is flavor. It's very important. When you're making Espagnole, it's all about flavor. That's all you want is flavor. So clean off that bottom down there.
Work it down.
I'm going to switch over to my whisk.
That whisk.
You can stick over to, you can stick with a wooden spoon if you want to, but I think it's just easier to do this now. It's going to be a little at a time. Don't do too much.
Yeah. You definitely want to do small incorporations, otherwise you end up with balls of dough.
And you don't want that in your sauce.
You know, balls of dough never good in a sauce. Yeah, once it starts to get, thick, you add a little bit more liquid, a little bit at a time, until you have a relatively saucy consistency, and then you can start to pour more freely. She'll show you.
That is looking gorgeous.
It really is.
As you can see, the roux is doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's thickening up the sauce. It's giving you that beautiful glaze. Look at that.
It's so glossy. If it's a French sauce, you want it to be glossy, pretty much. It's pretty much the rule of thumb.
Oh, yeah. Alright, so now that I feel well assured that all that roux, all that lumpy mixture right there, that doughy mixture that we had earlier is gone, I'm just going to go ahead and pour the rest in there.
Just stir it through. And then at this point, it's just a waiting game, waiting for everything to reduce down, because it's going to look a little bit thinner than your final sauce is supposed to be. So.
Definitely. But it's going to reduce down just about a quarter of it. And I'm going to have it, bring it to about a boil. So I'm going to wait for it to boil. I'm going to stir it up, bring it to a simmer, and then I'm just going to let it sit for at least a minimum of an hour. Try to push for 2.
Yes.
But if you can't wait, I
Listen
understand.
to this woman.
If you can't wait, I understand. That this is basically the cheap, quick way to do the Espagnole instead of the whole 8-hour process. We will show you how to make stocks as well. They're not hard. And
just time consuming.
Definitely time consuming, but cheaper if you think about it.
Yes. Alright.
Okay, so as you can see, the bubbles, it means it started to boil. This is the sachet. Now, typically it's supposed to be with a cheesecloth, but you know, we're supposed to be pretending that, you know, we can't get cheesecloths, or we didn't have time to go find it, or we forgot. So what I did is I used a coffee filter.
Yeah.
And inside is parsley stems, bay leaf, garlic, and peppercorn. And I'm just going to put it right in, make sure it soaks in well, because again, it's not cheesecloth.
Some purists will tell you that your sachet needs to be added like before the stock gets added. I don't necessarily believe that. We don't ascribe to that belief because unless you're making a sauce that's only simmering for like 10 or 20 minutes, the flavor dispersal is going to happen within the 2 hours. You run the risk of puncturing your bag, especially if you're using a coffee filter, if you add it before the stock. So we've added it in, and we'll let that flavor infuse.
We're letting it infuse, and now that it's going to boil, I'm going to put it down to a simmer, and the simmer is where I'm going to leave it at. And you see all this little excess stuff right here, that's the fat, all this little foam. This is the stuff that, the scum, I guess that you really want to call it. We're going to skim that off in a little while.
Yeah.
We don't want that in there. We want pretty sauce.
Yeah. Alright folks, we're at the skimming stage.
Yeah, it's been cooking for about 20 minutes. So now we're just going to clean this stuff off. Here's the skin.
Yum.
Skin, scum, however you want to call it. We don't want it in our soup. So simply take anything that you can find, really, and take it off. Be careful not to take the soup or the sauce. You just want this excess fat that mostly has come from the butter off.
So we have finished, our initial skim. Yeah, skim. It might need a little bit more skimming later. Only time will tell. Look how beautiful and glossy that is. And yeah, we'll return to show you when we do our next batch of skimming, and then finally when the sauce is done.
And what you could do
Oh yes.
with this.
So, for those of you who are kind of miserly and don't want to waste the skimmings from your Espagnole, my grandmother actually used to take these skimmings and she would start a gravy with them. So you put them in a pan, and then you toss in some mushrooms and you make a roux out of that, and you get the roux pretty dark, and you do a mixture of stock and cream. And so you end up with a really creamy, velvety gravy, and it's great for everything. It's great for biscuits. It's wonderful, and you get all that Espagnole flavor. Yeah. Right. Yeah, so, so velvety. Right, folks.
All right, so it's gone down to an hour and a half, a little bit over, so about an hour and 45 minutes, and this is what we've got, this beautiful sauce.
So rich and delicious. All right, so we're going to show you how to check and see if something is what we call nappe consistency.
I'm just going to take out the sachet.
Pull that sachet out, so.
Okay. So. And you simply dip.
Right. And if the liquid doesn't drip down into the line before a couple seconds is up, you know that you have a nappe consistency sauce or soup, which is the perfect consistency for this sauce.
Okay, so now normally we're supposed to use a chinois or china cap. Mm-hmm. It's either or on people what they use. However, since this is supposed to be a way that where home cooks are supposed to be cooking, not most home cooks have something like this. So yeah. We're going to simply use a strainer.
Strainer, yay! Okay.
And a bowl. This time we're using the enormous cup that we used earlier for the broth, or the stock, I should say. And we're just simply going to place it in there.
Alright.
Okay, and again, we're not seasoning until this is done. So we're just going to turn the heat off. And we're going to pour this beautiful brown sauce that has been cooking for almost 2 hours into the strainer. Get everything out.
For Espagnole, a chinois or a china cap is not necessary for straining out your sauce. The pieces, the particulates in the vegetables are big enough that you can strain off your sauce without ending up with, something chunky or whatever. You want a smooth sauce, but you can achieve that with a regular strainer when you're making Espagnole.
And you can make this sauce as thick as you want. I mean, the longer you cook it, the thicker it's going to get, so all up to you. And again, the longer you cook it, the more flavor you're going to get. Try to use all of that. Alright, and then you simply add it right back into your pot. Look at that.
Espagnole. That is a rich and beauteous sauce.
And now you simply season to taste. So we're going to add a little bit of pepper. A little bit of salt. Make sure that salt dissolves in there.
Yum.
And of course I'm going to give it a taste. Why wouldn't I?
Exactly. You can't have a sauce and
Let's make sure that the seasoning's right. Otherwise, we're going to be serving the sauce and the seasoning's not right.
Beautiful.
That was perfect. We don't even add anything more to that.